Hey Daily Dosers, Chase here from our Palma Valley campus. So excited you guys are joining us today. You know, over the past few years, I've noticed that people are really looking for significance, or they're hoping to leave a lasting legacy. And whether that's in a family group or maybe the organization that you're working with, or potentially even the whole world, people are just looking for that legacy that they're going to leave behind. And Chris actually alluded to this past weekend, where he said that if we want to have real significance and impact, we should be focusing on our hearts, not what people see on the outside. Now that premise comes from our story in 1 Samuel 16 verses 6 and 7, where Jesse is walking his sons in front of Samuel, who's supposed to be picking this next king. And this is what verse 6 and 7 say. When they arrived, Samuel saw Eliab and thought, "Surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord." But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him." The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And isn't that the lie that we buy into? We think, well, if I'm going to be an influencer, I have to wear the right clothes, got to buy the right cars, have the right houses. Or maybe you're like, okay, well, I need to accomplish this accolade or this certain thing. So athletes, they think, well, I gotta break this record that's never going to be broken after I live. And yet we know those things, they only last 30, 40, 50 years beyond our lifetime. We know those things are going to come to pass. So what does it look like for impact that's going to last long beyond our lifetime? Well, we as Christians know that if we know who God is and we have a relationship with Jesus, the thing that we get to bring with us are people. See, the impact that we can have is the way that we live around it. We can help people have that relationship with God, and we get to spend eternity with them and with God. So what does it look like for us to have a heart where we can have that sort of impact? If we talked about that, we could be here for hours, days, weeks. But instead, I just want to highlight one thing from the story that we already know, where Saul has already acted out. See, Samuel goes to Saul in a previous chapter and says, "What's with this king? And what's with the sheep that you brought back? You weren't supposed to bring those back." And Saul, being the guy that he is, comes up with reasons, justifications, and this defense of, well, this is what I meant to do with these things. And don't we do the same thing? I remember this one time I was helping someone through something, and I just got tired of talking through this. And so eventually I just blurted out the truth, and I was over it. And so my buddy came back to me later and he said, "You know what? You probably could have said that a little bit differently." And instead of saying, "You know what, you're right," my defense was, I was just sharing the truth with him. There's other situations in life that I can think of too, where people said, "Well, you probably shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have said that." And instead of saying, "You know what, you're right," I usually say, well, at least I didn't do this thing, or at least I'm not as bad as name that person. See, we have these justifications and these reasons. And I don't know how long we're going to be studying David, maybe the next couple months or years, but as we look at his life, you can see how he responds when Samuel comes to him. See, Samuel goes to David and David says, "You know what? You're right. What do I do to get back in this right relationship with God? What do I do to get this forgiveness?" See, if we adopted the heart that David has, instead of having this justification, these reasons for why we do what we do, these wrongdoings, that'll put us another step closer to living a life and having a heart that'll help us lead people to Jesus and know and have a relationship with God. So here's my recommendation. Here's step one of having a heart that is going to have impact and real significance, is that whenever we find that we've done something wrong, whatever we've been caught in, whatever sin we do, don't take a long time to get back and right with God. Instead, repent, seek that forgiveness, and immediately get back to that relationship with God. That's how we can have real significance and real impact in the circles around us and in the people around us. We love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.